Seems like a really inefficient way of painting road lines, but what do I know? Damn, this compost is following me everywhere I drive! The first step in creating a McDonald's salad. Ah, the sweeping majesty of laying down manure. They'd probably have less accidents with this thing if they didn't shape it like a coffin.
Farming is America's biggest industry.
So let's start the bailouts.
American industries have made great advances in productivity. Agriculture has outpaced them all. One of the reasons has been intense mechanization.
It's all thanks to the Skynet program.
Impressive. However, some crops must still be harvested by hand.
All done by this one guy.
Inspection, selection, cutting, or gentle handling are basic to quality. Yet even now, practically every hand-picked crop is under intensive study.
To find out if they make good parents.
A constant flow of new and remarkable experimental equipment is on trial, all designed to relieve man's age-old burden of manual labor.
This machine doesn't actually do anything, but it keeps people busy.
Eliminate hand labor and reduce cost with no sacrifice in quality. Until then, much of the work must still be manual.
Stick shift all the way.
And the placement of thousands of workers at the right place, at the right time, is an immense job, especially at harvest time.
Harvesting snow turned out to be a bad call.
Successfully carried through, even in the many crops calling for stoop labor. Here is stoop labor in the literal meaning of the term.
AKA stupid labor.
Also applied to many of the toughest and least desirable farm jobs. For example, no stooping here.
Almost like the crops are higher up or something.
More difficult to pick than other fruits. Most farm workers avoid this kind of job. All such farm jobs which are tough, dirty, or unpleasant are generally referred to as stoop labor.
But the insurance doesn't see it that way.
This is the only area in which the American farm labor supply falls short and is supplemented by Mexican citizens.
Cheap, easily abused Mexican
Or
citizens.
Mexican nationals. But the term most commonly used is braceros. In Spanish, this means a man who works with his arms and hands.
Or with their braces.
It so happens that the braceros form a tiny fraction of the total labor force used on our farms.
So the program is ineffective?
Feel even this tiny fraction should not be used. A typical dialogue pinpoints the major issues.
Well, with Americans on relief rolls, why bring in foreigners to work on our farms? Makes no sense.
Thanks, Jim Gilchrist.
Farmer, though. These braceros work for lower pay than Americans would.
But doesn't the farmer realize he's cutting down American labor?
We could be treating American workers poorly.
Somebody do something about it.
In short, the big question in many minds is why braceros?
Because they think about this instead of real problems?
It is so widespread that we consider it a public service to tell the why and how of braceros on American farms.
We thought we'd spend your tax money on this instead of making new roads.
Still call for stoop labor, especially at harvest time, when demand for labor is at its peak. It isn't easy to find men willing to take on such undesirable kinds of work.
But then we point a gun at them and, well,
His seasonal labor force long before his labor needs reach the critical point. Once he's estimated the number of men needed, he goes to two potential sources.
biker gangs and former child
The
celebrities.
Farm Placement Service, a combined federal and state agency which links men looking for work and farmers who have work to be done. Here, weeks before the season, the grower registers the jobs he has to offer, the types of work, the specific crops, the pay rates, and so on.
Craigslist used to be much more professionally run.
Excellent recruiting job. But the farmer knows from long experience that workers able and willing to do this stoop labor are always in short supply.
Ever since the Braceros fire of
So
1926.
he goes to a second source. A private labor recruiting association, the farmers' organized effort to recruit a labor force of their own.
No, sir, this is for Braceros secretaries.
He notifies the association of his needs. The farmer knows that if the domestic supply is, as usual, short, the association can, if authorized, we repeat, if authorized, supply braceros to compensate for the shortage.
If not authorized, well, you'll still get the labor anyway.
So critical. If labor is not on hand when the crop is ready, the crop and the farmer's investment is lost.
And then everyone will have to get manufacturing jobs.
5 days before his harvest date, he revisits the farm placement service to see whether enough seasonal domestic labor is available to meet his specified needs.
Being seasonal workers, they must dress in Christmas colors.
The farmer is not authorized to import braceros until he proves to the official's satisfaction that the farmer's own recruiting service has utilized all the seasonal domestic labor available.
Why does your request form say, but only hot
That
ones?
the farmer can bring in only the number of braceros required to fill the gap between the available domestic supply and the total number needed.
Ha, the fool! I'm giving him Canadian
For a better
laborers!
understanding, why not interview the agent himself? Would you mind answering a few questions for us, sir?
Yes, I'd be glad to answer them.
As long as I can be depressed about
A
it.
great many requests for foreign farm workers, braceros.
I'd have to say no to that question. Actually, supplemental workers are a very small part of the farm labor force in California.
In fact, this is actually a front for a mob
Being
operation.
used now as a few years ago because there are more domestic laborers now available for farm work. We use every possible recruiting method to ensure an adequate supply of labor.
But usually we just end up sending robots.
Radio, recruiters, and a key location. I think we do a pretty complete job of recruiting domestic labor, and that we meet most of the farmers' requests.
And I'm just so happy about it, as you can tell.
Well, we even supply a good deal of that. It's only when we can't find enough domestic laborers and the farmer has utilized all his sources that we approve the use of nationals.
Wait a second, he faked us out with the cigarette! He's not really a smoker! Don't believe
He
him!
agrees to continue every effort on his own to recruit and hire domestic workers wherever they might be available. He must pay foreign workers at a rate no less than domestics doing the same kind of work.
So about half a turnip per
He
week.
advise of the status of any activity in which he's using foreign workers. These regulations guarantee the employment rights of domestic workers, and nationals are used only when the domestic labor supply just can't meet the need.
It's just so utterly fascinating and joyful. My soul is always
The farmer now
smiling.
brings his certification for braceros to his own labor recruiting association. And as has been seen, this certification for braceros is fully authorized by state and federal authorities.
So this is a Wendy's napkin.
All the facts are checked and double-checked, and only if they meet the preset conditions can the order be put through.
Look at how thorough this security check is. He had to consult a clipboard. At this point, we consult Vincent Price. We're not exactly sure why. And the narrator has fallen asleep. I do not blame him.
Only
Yeah.
now can the manager of the Farmers Association process through further channels the request for the authorized number of braceros.
Susan, I need a standard issue bribe form to let some braceros through.
The association manager himself can give us interesting details.
Define interesting.
Excuse me, sir.
Oh, God, I'm hearing the voices again!
Just for that particular farmer?
No, that request represented an accumulation of 8 orders from growers in this area. When we receive a sizable amount of orders, we then call the El Centro Reception Center and place our order for foreign workers.
Look, can you come back later? I was about to smoke this
The
joint.
reception center at the border gets several hundred workers ready so fast.
Well, we plant the workers in the soil before winter.
We know roughly the number of Mexican nationals that will be needed to supplement the local labor in this area.
Wait, let me consult my script here.
We also know the seasonal high demands for this type of labor. So when growers come in with authorizations from the California Department of Employment certifying that a local labor shortage does exist, and I speak now in terms of stoop labor.
Wow, I can't take all these interesting facts about the procedure. We've got to slow
Your
down!
organization that farmers also try to recruit domestic farm workers?
Yes, that's true. Here's an example of several ads that we run locally.
Come down to Crazy Ernie's Migrant Workers Emporium. Our prices are insane. Free balloons for the kids.
in states such as Texas and Arizona. The results of this recruitment effort, as it applies to picking pears, peaches, and apricots.
But not apples. Only communists pick apples.
However, as it pertains to stoop labor, the results were practically nil.
Doesn't the Department of Employment supply a good deal of the stoop labor required?
Objection, Your Honor. He's leading the witness.
But even with their excellent organization and their experienced personnel, they are unable to supply us with all the stoop labor that is needed in this area. For example, during the 15-day recruitment effort on the part of the California Department of Employment, we requested these number of workers.
Since it was a request for government assistance, we naturally were given some string and a bench trowel.
As a matter of fact, we requested over 1,100 workers. The Department of Employment was only able to recruit 725.
And most of them were rejected for not having mustaches like mine.
Labor of over 450 workers. And this is where the Mexican national comes in, where the local labor will not.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Okay, erase the tape, guys.
And so, in practically all such jobs, the farmer has all the domestics he and the recruiting agencies can find.
Or at least as many as we can trick into doing this.
The entire crew, domestic or foreign, is paid at exactly the same rate. But, and this is very important, even after the braceros are at work in the fields, domestic workers still have priority.
Look, domestics are just better at chopping the mutant broccoli, okay? I don't care if I sound racist.
Who wants to work has transportation all ready to take him out to the field, where the farmer must take him on, even if it means pulling out a bracero to whom he is already committed by contract.
We find whole new ways of screwing people over.
Provided by the farmers, it is seldom that a bracero is made idle.
We won't let them be as lazy as internet reviewers.
What about the treatment of braceros? Are they mishandled or mistreated in any way?
Well, you see... Oh, look, some fresh carrots.
At the center of this scene is Senor Antonio Islas, the Mexican consul very close to the bracero program.
He is your assassination target.
To say on this question.
First of all, let me clarify a point.
I am actually from Norway.
Speaking to are no wetbacks. The name applies to Mexicans who enter your country illegally.
It's only slightly
The
racist.
name I speak to are known as braceros. They enter your country through a careful, regulated program worked out between my government and yours.
Man, this dubbing isn't matching his lip movements very well.
As to how the braceros are treated, the best proof they are well treated is that the Mexican government has allowed the continued temporary immigration of the workers.
And the Mexican government would never do anything bad to its citizens.
Here many times. The international agreement for this program set up the highest possible standards.
Only 3 kinds of salmonella permitted.
Living quarters, food, and welfare.
Best not to show the funeral arrangements.
This program is without doubt well carried out, taking into consideration the number of Mexican temporary workers.
Team Jacob supports braceros.
I find that very few misunderstandings arise and very few errors are committed.
But don't beat them at checkers or we'll go crazy.
Benefit from this program. Mexico assists the American farmer with workers.
And Mexican Elvis here.
Farm labor shortages, and the United States provides additional income to the Mexican worker, which improves his economy.
That's very nice, sir, but we're here about a timeshare presentation.
Both sides gain. In my contacts with the braceros, I can summarize my impression by saying they are pleased to come to work in the United States.
Until they get there, anyway.
And what of the money earned by the braceros?
Mostly it's spent on new buses.
As people claim drained out of this country? Hardly. Look at the braceros when they come here.
Look at them! Look at them!
It is obvious they need a great many things, like clothes, for instance.
They're wearing last
Where do
year's
they spend their
fashions.
money? As a local merchant put it,
as a matter of fact, they spend a great deal of their money right here.
Mostly on My Little Pony merchandise.
Other domestic items such as transistor radios, luggage, home furnishings, items that aren't readily available back home.
Like joy, music, and merriment, all things that are not found in this short.
And again, when they leave, they have brand new shirts, pants, shoes, all items bought right here locally.
All ridiculously
A
overpriced.
little different angle. The stoop labor situation being what it is, I don't see how the local farmers can get along without Braceros. Without this source of labor, many farmers are going to be unable to make a profit.
But then again, I'm just a manager at Walmart, so why are you asking me?
Still our best customer.
Found another dead body. That's
With
8
the
today.
domestic supply of farm labor being inadequate, Braceros are a must. But some people say to the farmer,
Stop planting crops in my garden, you weirdo!
Enough, and you'll pull in all the domestic labor you need.
the fact is that farm wages have gone up steadily for many years.
It only used to be a quarter of a turnip.
Seasonal domestic labor willing to do this kind of work. Conclusion. Unless we have Braceros to fill the gap, many stoop labor crops will be forced out of American agriculture.
Like stink radish, fiddleheads, and sunchoke.
Much of our food processing industry's output would be replaced by imports.
Ladies, I think you're missing a few of those
Now held by
potatoes.
Americans would be taken by workers in other lands, and our plants and equipment would be slowed down or shut down.
I mean, let's face it, our quality isn't exactly making everyone rush to import from us.
Jobs and investment in the transportation industry would feel the blow. Example, in a recent typical year in just one state, the transportation of such familiar items as lettuce, fresh and processed citrus, asparagus, and tomatoes totaled over $166.5 million.
That's a lot of Bloody Marys.
Remove these familiar crops from production, and these millions now going into transportation would disappear, hitting both its management and its labor force.
The labor force will have no vegetables to swipe while on the
The
road.
same state, in the same typical year, required many types of containers, lids, caps, and labels. Over $112 million worth. Cut out this $112 million worth, and what happens to the thousands of people who work in or invest in these allied industries?
So the message is that despite Braceros only making up a small part of the workforce, without them millions of other jobs would be destroyed?
Production and labor force are all geared to the availability of these familiar crops, harvested for the most part by Braceros.
Acorn filtering, however, would not be
All such
affected.
crops are driven out of American farming. Many jobs in allied industries would be lost. Many segments of our economy would feel the blow. The solution to the problem? As we said, even now, machines to eliminate stoop labor are in the pilot stage.
But they probably won't go to series.
Los Braceros are a necessary supplement to our domestic crews. In Spanish, Braceros means a man who works with arms and hands.
So pretty much
In
any
American
job.
lingo, they are called lifesavers. And they are, not only to the farmer, but to the housewife, the grocer, the transporter, the canner and processor, and to all of the other industries whose output and very existence are so closely interlocked and dependent on the continued supply of such crops.
Here are some other jobs that rely on Braceros. Paintbrush cleaner, vending machine repairman, novelty sex toy molder, accountants for the Girl Scouts, furniture store stock boys, doo-wop singers, leather mug salesmen, nuclear testing scientist, and line producers for game shows.